Hey guys, welcome to the Health Babes podcast. Today we have Dr. Tracy Gapin on. He is a board certified urologist and a world-renowned men's health and performance expert. He incorporates hormone optimization, peptide therapy, state-of-the-art biometric tracking, epigenetic coaching, and cutting-edge age management protocols to help men not just optimize their testosterone levels, but radically upgrade their health and vitality and reverse aging. He is the author of Male 2.0, Cracking the Code to Limitless Health and Vitality. So let's get started.
Well, everybody, this is Dr. Gapin. Welcome to the Health Babes podcast. We appreciate you coming on.
Thank you so much. Glad to be here with you. Happy Friday.
Yes.
I like your background.
Oh, thank you. That's my office.
Nice. It looks like, know how you can do like fake backgrounds? It looks like it's like that, but it's not.
Everyone has these virtual backgrounds. I have a real background. You actually touch the wall here. So,
yeah. It's awesome. Well, why don't we dive in and let's just get into everything. I want to hear more about your story. Just how you got into functional medicine. I know you're a urologist, so you've been in the conventional model and you know the changes that needed to be made. So why don't you dive into that?
Sure. So I as you mentioned, I'm a board certified urologist. I've been men's health expert now for over 20 years. I've been in a large group practice here in Sarasota, Florida, high volume, treating prostate cancer, kidney stones, doing vasectomies, all the kind of bread and butter urology and cancer stuff. And I had a very pivotal moment in my life and my career about 5 years ago or so now, where I had some health challenges of my own, gaining weight, low energy, fatigue, brain fog, wasn't sleeping, and I really neglected my own health for the sake of my practice and my patients and my work. And it was affecting not just my health, but also my relationship with my family, my wife and my kids.
Yeah.
And so I went for my first physical ever, which was very eye-opening for me. And I talk about this in my book, Male 2.0, about how this moment really changed my life because this primary care doctor made it clear that I was not overtly sick, but I was far from healthy. I had markers of inflammation. I had some issues with kidney function. My cholesterol was sky high. I was overweight and I needed help.
Yeah.
And what was scary for me was what he recommended.
Yeah, exactly.
Eat more vegetables, exercise, and maybe we'll put you on a statin. And those were his recommendations. And I felt like there had to be more.
Yeah.
And so I leave that office kind of a little scared from my own mortality, but also confused that that's all he had to offer me. And so I go to my men's health arsenal. I'm seeing men every day for low testosterone and ED and sexual health issues and prostate issues. And I realized, very eye-opening, very embarrassing to have to admit at the time, I didn't have any answers either.
Right.
And that was for me, the pivotal moment in my life where like, we're in crisis care. This is disease model. And I know functional medicine docs have been shouting this forever, but for me to actually have my own personal experience as it relates to men's health, it changed everything. And so I dove deep into hormone optimization courses and going through certification programs and from functional medicine and peptide therapy and learning how to use genetics. And I went through an epigenetic certification program to be able to actually read people's genetics so that for myself, I can understand what should I eat? What should I not eat? What's right for me and my body?
Yeah.
And how to use wearable tech and how to use data to really individualize healthcare. And all this enabled me to really regain my health and regain my relationship with my family. And that got me on this quest to transform men's health. And so my passion has been redefined by all this. And I have, you may not be aware, but June 30th of this year, just last week or 10 days ago now, I formally left disease model urology. That was my last day in clinical urology. Yeah. So 17 years in a private practice, and I have formally left, and I'm 100% committed and devoted to doing this right here that we're going to talk about today.
That's amazing. Congrats.
Isn't it funny how, not funny, but it's interesting how most functional medicine practitioners all were in the conventional model and then got sick. Right? Themselves. I mean, that's how Krystal, Dr. Horn and I were. I was had no idea about functional medicine until I was sick and no one could help me.
Mhm.
And then you start diving in and learning all this stuff. And then you're like, well, this is what I want to do. This is what's working. This is what helps people. So it's kind of like the same story for so many people.
Right.
Why don't we talk about the testosterone pandemic? Why don't you go into that?
Sure. Yeah. So I see men in my practice every day for the last 20 plus years now who come in with low energy and brain fog, and they're struggling. And people think that testosterone is just about sex and muscle, but it's not. It's about a man's life. It's about his energy, his focus, his cognitive function, his ability to be really, my passion is helping men be present and engaged husbands, fathers, and leaders. And low testosterone is a big part of what's wrong with men these days. And I call it a pandemic. It's not getting the attention it deserves. Everyone's talking about COVID, obviously, but there's really no attention to this testosterone pandemic. We have several large studies. We have a US study and then 2 European studies that are all longitudinal 20 plus year studies that show that testosterone levels are plummeting by over 1% a year. And some studies have shown almost 2% a year, they're dropping. So what that means is if you look at a 50-year-old man today, his testosterone level is about 30% lower than it was 20 years ago. It's massive. And that equates to not just the symptoms of low testosterone, but it also equates to increased obesity and cardiovascular disease. And there are studies that actually correlate low testosterone with increased mortality and shortened longevity. And so it's a real problem that it needs more attention. We need to really start focusing on how to optimize men's health.
Yeah. I noticed that too. I mean, and men that are very young, that you would not think would have an issue, their testosterone's tanked.
Mm-hmm.
Crazy. I'll see guys in their 20s and 30s come in with some mild symptoms, and you check their levels and they're ridiculously low. We could talk about what the numbers mean also, but suffice it to say that they're much, much lower than where they need to be.
And then a lot of the time their estrogen's high.
Yes.
And then that's a whole,
cortisol through the roof, everything, right?
Yes, exactly. So I'll show you a typical pattern. I see these high-powered, high-achieving executives. They're so busy at work and they're overperforming. They're staying up late. They're waking up early. They're eating like crap. They're not exercising. They're not taking any targeted supplementation, and they start letting their body slide. They lose their edge. And it's this snowball cascading effect where, what comes first, chicken or the egg? I think that a lot of the low testosterone originates from endocrine disruptors in our society, which we can talk about. But you get low testosterone and poor nutrition and high stress, high cortisol, lack of sleep. And what does all that do? It makes you gain a little bit of weight. What does that do? That turns your testosterone into estrogen. So now, like you mentioned, Becky, you have lower testosterone, you have higher estrogen. And what does that do? That perpetuates the metabolic syndrome, the inflammation associated with that. And you get worsening of that. You get worsening lipid parameters, higher cortisol, and it becomes this ugly, vicious cycle that guys don't know how to fix. And they go to these other men's health, quote, air quote, experts out there who say all you need is testosterone. And you can see how if you don't address the cortisol and the sleep and the nutrition and the fitness and all these other components, there's no way you're going to be successful.
No.
Yeah. And they get very emotional, they start turning more like, I guess you could say female, it's that the estrogen, what estrogen does, they start to even develop like breasts sometimes, and just really get their, it's always our wives who call us, they make their husbands talk to us, but
yes.
And they're like, my husband's so emotional. He has no muscle mass anymore. Can't sleep. He's so up and down with his mood. And then we check the hormones and we're like, well, here's what's going on.
And I got to say, I really appreciate the opportunity to be on your podcast specifically because, what I found in my 20 plus year career is that it's the wives who will get the men to finally come in. Even myself, I had my own health issues, and what got me to finally go see
your wife?
It was my wife. She's bugging the hell out of me. You got to go.
I love that.
Doctor. And I was like, I can take care of myself. Well, I realized that I can't, and so it's men's lack of ability to ask for directions, ask for help. That the women have to jump in and say, get to the doctor. So
Yeah,
But
they
we
don't
talk,
want to seem weak, you know,
yeah.
and in that, which they're not. I mean, that's
Mhm.
ridiculous to think that that makes you weak, but that's, I think, the way that a lot of men are trained. You know, when you're
Absolutely
a
right.
kid, you fall down, don't cry, you're fine.
Okay. Yep.
Like,
Yeah.
don't show emotion. So if you're sick, you're fine. Like, everything's fine. And so I think that's why, you know, we have this form that we have men fill,
Yes.
or we have men and women fill out, you know, before they start and practice with us. And it's 0 to 3. 0 is no symptoms, 3 is, you know, terrible. Men are 0, 0, 0,
Zero.
0, 1, 0,
We're
0,
good.
0, 0, 0. And I'm like, I know you're not, that is not true.
Right.
That is not true.
Yes.
It's how
Yes.
you've been trained to express the way that you feel. But it's the whys that push them into it. And they're so
Yeah.
happy when they do, because it helps, it changes their lives.
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we talked a little bit about some of the causes of low estrogen or low testosterone. Do you know, you want to go into any more causes? You know, we talked about endocrine disruptors a little bit, but some people don't even know what that is.
Yeah, yeah. So we have numerous studies that show that these chemicals, these toxins, these toxicants in our environment are causing tremendous effects on hormone function. And so these are called endocrine disruptors, these chemicals. And what they do is they either decrease testosterone production, they decrease testosterone or androgen receptor production, or they affect function. And so through whatever mechanism it is, what these chemicals will do is crush testosterone. So I'll give you some examples. Plastic water bottles is one of the biggest ones. You know, we go through about 1 million plastic water bottles a minute on this planet, 1 million.
I
And
know.
most of those are not recycled. And what's happening is the plastic from these water bottles, you know, they're made from BPA, which is bisphenol A, and phthalates. Phthalates spelled with a P. And BPA and phthalates have been shown in several studies to crush hormone production, specifically testosterone. We see phthalates in any kind of plastic food container, you know, Tupperware, any kind of plastic containers that you store food in, especially if you're going to heat the food up, if it's warm food,
Yes.
the chemicals will get into your food, and studies show that it crushes testosterone.
Are those
We can look
K
at our
cups?
K-cups, exactly.
Yes.
Yes. You know, coffee brewed in K-cups, that plastic is leaching into your coffee, and studies show that it has a profound effect on testosterone. We can look at the grains in here that are produced here in the U.S. You know, especially in the Midwest, most of our grains and our wheat and corn crops are sprayed with an herbicide called atrazine, which is second in use only behind glyphosate as what the most commonly used herbicides. Atrazine has been shown in minuscule doses to turn male frogs into female frogs that can actually lay eggs and reproduce. Like they can actually convert male frogs into females. It's crazy.
Yeah.
And we have much higher detectable levels of atrazine in our food, in our drinking water, if you test your urine. One study showed 19 out of 20 people tested had detectable high levels of atrazine in their urine. And so it's scary that the foods we're eating, the containers for our foods, the water we're drinking, we can look at our personal care products, such as our deodorant, our soap, our shampoo, or anything that has scent, like sunscreen, like deodorant, or like laundry detergent.
Yeah.
All these products have chemicals that have been shown to affect, they're estrogenic, because they have effect on testosterone.
Yes.
So, you know, we have a responsibility to do something about this. Clearly, the FDA, EPA is not going to, you know, they're turning a blind eye to this. Almost every other country in the world is banning these chemicals, but in the US, they're still allowed. And so all we can do is increase awareness, decrease our exposure, and do everything we can to increase our body's ability to detoxify and fight the effect that these chemicals have on us.
Yeah, it's so important. And it's great that people are starting to talk about this. You know, I remember being in college and I would drink out of like a Zephyr Hills bottle, leave it in my car, and it would get like, you know, a little warm, and then I'd still drink out of it. And no idea. You know, the first time I heard about this was Sheryl Crow got breast cancer. And she was saying, I think it's because of my water bottles. And I was like, what? You know, but people now still don't have any idea. So the more we can talk about this, the better, because it's a huge problem.
Sure.
And it's very easy to, you know, get stainless steel water bottles to replace that. Exactly. Good old Yetis.
That's right.
Or
And
glass.
filter your water. We recently built a home, and so we installed a in-home water filtration system for our drinking water and our ice. I recommend doing something like that. There's even under-counter attachments that you can get for your sink as well, or you can get something like a Berkey water filter.
Yeah.
The key is you want a carbon block filter. Reverse osmosis does not get rid of these toxins we're talking about. So carbon block filter is really the key.
Yeah.
Okay, that's great.
Awesome. And it keeps your minerals, right? So the
That's
Berkey.
right.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. RO will remove too much calcium and I think magnesium and you actually need some. And so I recommend the carbon block filter over RO. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Good to know.
Let's dive into some epigenetics. You talk a lot about that.
Yes. So fun topic. So epigenetics for the listeners simply means above the genes, or it simply means how our lifestyle, our behaviors, our environment can affect genetic expression. And so this could be something like the toxins we were just talking about. Those chemicals will work at an epigenetic level to affect testosterone production.
Mm-hmm.
But we could look at things like the foods that we eat. We could look at our exercise, the types of exercise we do. We could look at even our thoughts.
Mm-hmm.
Our mindset can actually affect genetic expression. All these things can turn on and turn off genes. Well, why do we care? Well, I'll give you an example. We'll look at nutrition. So there are genetics related to how your body responds to carbohydrate intake. And there are two specific genes that are very impactful when it comes to how your body metabolizes it. For some people, carbohydrates are actually a good thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't mean breads and cakes and Twinkies.
The good ones.
I'm talking about the good ones, exactly.
Whole
Oatmeal,
foods,
quinoa, sweet
yeah.
potatoes, broccoli, all the good complex carbs. That based on your genetics, some people will actually lose weight with higher complex carb intake. So I can't tell you how many guys will come in to see me and they can't lose weight and they've got the belly fat going and they're tired and they have high estrogen, low testosterone. And they've been doing keto for the last 6 months. They can't lose any weight. They're running on a treadmill. They're doing the wrong type of exercise. They don't realize that they have specific micronutrient deficiencies based on their genetics that we can actually affect by just understanding that. And so epigenetics is understanding your genetics and how we can leverage that information to make specific lifestyle choices that are specifically right for you.
That's so great. It's really neat because people always say, well, can I change my genetics? And I'm like, you can turn genes on and off, right?
Yes.
I mean, you can do things that will trigger a gene to be really active or not. So
That's
yeah.
right.
It's so complex. Genes are so complex.
We know the tip of the iceberg, I feel like when it comes to genes.
Mm-hmm.
So when I work with men, one of the first things I do is I get a genetic template. And from that template or blueprint, I'm able to look at nutrition and tell you what kind of foods are right for you, what kind of foods are wrong for you. Some guys have grain sensitivities or gluten or dairy sensitivities that we can, based on that information, alter their diet. Macronutrient ratios, how much protein, carbs, and fats should you be eating? Things like saturated fat that you find in dairy and eggs and red meat, for some guys is actually harmful. And so these guys are coming in doing a paleo or keto diet with high saturated fat intake, which is the absolute wrong thing to be doing.
Yeah.
So understanding what you should be eating, they may have issues with micronutrients. I'll give you an example. The BCMO gene relates to how your body processes vitamin A.
Mm-hmm.
Vitamin A, beta carotene is the most common dietary form of vitamin A. But for some people who have a variant of that gene, you can't convert it to the active form of vitamin A, which is the retinoic acid form. And so you can eat all the carrots and other vitamin A foods you want, and you'll never get the levels that you need. And so you could be having a deficiency. By knowing that, you simply take a multivitamin that specifically has the active form of vitamin A that you need.
Right.
Those kinds of things that without genetics, you're just guessing.
Yes.
Yeah,
And
that's
everybody is so
great.
different.
Yeah, everyone is so different, and
Right.
being able to do that and really tailor it to every person individually it's great. And that's what we tell people too. We're like, I can't tell you, how many macros, how many carbs you should be eating, because until I see some testing and know what your body actually likes, we don't know, because everybody is so different.
Right.
So you talk about having a system-based approach to health. So why don't you go into detail about this?
Sure. Yeah. So I've created what I call the MALE framework, which is MALE, which is my systems-based approach to health. And what that means is to optimize men's health, we need to go what I call beyond testosterone. And that is that we need to take a comprehensive integrated approach, looking at all these different aspects of your health. So for example, M is mindset. So I focus on first living with intention and being sure that you have specific goals and that you understand your why and that you're driven toward your goals, and mitigating stress, becoming stress resilient. So you can't get rid of the stresses in your life. Stuff's going to come up and happen every day, that you got to be able to know how to deal with stress and view stress as a good, helpful thing, not a harmful thing. And
Right.
mindset stuff has been shown to actually affect genetic expression and will ultimately affect your health. So I like to say it all starts with M for mindset. You can't get anything else done if you don't have the right proper mindset. A is age reversal. And I know it's very controversial, but there's actually science that shows that we can actually reverse the aging process and that aging is a disease. So I look at the 9 tenets of aging, which is beyond the scope of what we're talking about today, but suffice it to say, I look at cellular function and cellular efficiency and how can we improve mitochondrial function and NAD levels and all these other key aspects of aging. Optimizing hormones is in this category as well. And I go beyond testosterone, looking at thyroid and cortisol and insulin and melatonin and vitamin D and DHEA and estrogen and on and on and on. And, there are probably 10, 12 different hormones that we need to be looking at besides just testosterone. L is lifestyle. So this is where I focus on nutrition and sleep and fitness, all based on your unique genetics that will affect how your blueprint may be different than the next guy's blueprint. And then E is environment. This is where I look at gut health. I look at immune function and detoxification. How can we optimize our body's detox systems to be able to handle the toxins in our environment? And so you can see how putting all these pieces together, the MALE, is really critical to be able to get any kind of real actionable results.
That's so great.
I love that.
Thank you.
I was listening to another podcast you were doing too, and you were talking about male 1.0, like a lot of the conventional models. So this is just really working on everything and putting all the pieces together. It's missing. It really is missing in healthcare. So that's great.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, male 1.0, I like to say, is the reactive old school model where guys just wait till they're sick and view it as either diseased or not.
Yep.
In my opinion, disease to not, that just gets you to neutral.
Right.
I'm focused on optimization.
Exactly.
I individualize it, tailor to your individual genetics. We use data to actually, leverage actual outcome data to understand how we're doing and assess response.
Yeah.
And it's being proactive.
Yeah, that's great. Why don't you talk a little bit about peptide therapy?
I love this topic.
I know.
My favorite topic. I say the same thing every time I start. Peptides are amazing. And I should probably come up with a new word, but that's my best word for peptides. So peptides are nothing more than chains of amino acids. So for the listener, a protein is a long chain of amino acids, technically greater than 100 amino acids in length. A short chain of amino acids is a peptide. So things like insulin, that's a peptide. Growth hormone's a peptide. We have peptides that are as short as 2 amino acids in length. Epidolon is a peptide that's been shown, comes from the thymus gland, and it's been shown to actually extend lifespan in mouse studies. Mm-hmm. We have peptides that can serve any function that we want. They're very precise in nature. They're not pharmaceuticals, so they can't be patented. They can't be sold. You can't make, big pharma can't make tons of money on them. Because they're nothing more than chains of amino acids. They're signaling molecules that your body already recognizes. So BPC, for example, BPC 157 is a peptide that comes from your stomach, comes from the enzymes of your stomach, gastric enzymes. And BPC is amazing for reducing gut inflammation and optimizing gut health. It could be given orally for improving your gut flora and your gut health. It could be used as an injectable to help with musculoskeletal inflammation. We have peptides like thymosin alpha, which is great for boosting immune function. Thymosin beta is great for musculoskeletal repair, injury. You hurt your knee or your elbow, or your shoulder. It's a great peptide to help speed the recovery process. We can look at peptides that are amazing for losing weight. The growth hormone secretagogues like CJC ipamorelin combination or tesamorelin. These are peptides that will stimulate your body to increase production of growth hormone. People always hear growth hormone as the fountain of youth, and there are some negative consequences, however, of taking growth hormone exogenously.
Right.
But if we can naturally stimulate your body to produce more growth hormone on its own to get you back to the levels that you are supposed to be at, your optimal levels, then you can lose weight, you can build muscle, you can sleep better, have better cognitive function, all of these amazing effects. And what's great is that they're really negligible, if any, side effects for most peptides. So whether it's reducing inflammation, improving gut health, speeding repair, musculoskeletal repair, helping sleep, helping cognitive function, whatever it may be, peptides are a great way to accomplish it.
That's great.
I will emphasize that peptides are the icing on the top of your cake, so to speak. So guys will come in and want to take peptides and not do
Everything else.
stuff. Yeah. I'm gonna eat like crap and not exercise and just take a peptide. It doesn't quite work like that, unfortunately. It's not the magic bullet.
And it's the same thing as them wanting to get, testosterone, just getting testosterone injections, right? It's like, no, you have to, you're not getting to the root, right? So it's all,
that's right.
It's so important.
No, I do like it as testosterone's a great kickstart. A lot of guys, they've lost their edge, they're in this rut, and to get them started, testosterone's a great way to kind of initiate that process. Mm-hmm. But you got to go beyond testosterone to all these other components, or else you're wasting your time.
Right. Yeah. Really and truly, you're just covering it up.
Yes.
So why don't you talk to us about your book? What is it called? Do you, what makes your book different? Because your book is different. And what can listeners expect from reading your book?
Thank you. So the book is called Male 2.0, Cracking the Codes of Limitless Health and Vitality. And the book is really a passion of mine, because it really starts with my story of how I transformed my own health, my life, and my career. I've completely transformed my medical practice and career to focus on men's health optimization. And so Male 2.0 is, in my mind, the beginning of this men's health transformation that I'm working toward to help guys take a different approach to men's health and recognize that they need to be proactive about it. They need to understand that there are tools and devices and approaches and stuff that they can use beyond just testosterone. And so I talk a lot about genetics. I talk a lot about wearable tech. I talk about peptides. I talk about how do we incorporate this systems-based approach. How do we do it all within the framework of something that guys can actually handle and incorporate into their lives. Guys are busy. I get it. I'm just like all the men I work with. I'm incredibly busy and I don't have time to slow down, but it's living with intention.
It's so true.
Yeah. And so it's an easy read too. I mean, it's a book that you can go into and get what you need out of it. And it's not going to take up, forever, all of your time. That's what people fear with books, but it's not like that. It's very easy to read and very easy to get what you need out of it and to put it into practice. So that's what makes it so great, in my opinion.
Tangible tools. So where can people find you?
So my website's drtracygapin.com. You can check out my site, and you can check out the Male 90X program, which is a comprehensive systems-based program that incorporates all the stuff we talked about today. You can also get a free copy of my book. So if you go to drtracygapin.com/limitless, you can get a free copy of my book if you'll just cover the shipping. And it's also on Amazon or Kindle as well.
That's awesome. Yes. Who's not going to go get a free copy of your book? Every single person listening. And it's going to be a lot of women too, because they're going to read it and tell their husbands what to do.
That's right.
So I know you closed your practice, but are you still working one-on-one with patients with virtual?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Okay. Yeah. So the Gapin Institute has formally opened. It is via telemedicine at the moment. The brick and mortar is going to be launching very soon as well.
Oh, wow.
I have a team behind me. I have health coaches, fitness coaches, epigenetics specialists. I have a medical team. I have a client concierge. And so I do a lot of my patient care, just like we're doing here today in front of a computer. And a lot of it, in this day and age, virtual is where most men want it anyway. They're too busy to come to the office. And so, I have redefined my practice. It's no longer about catheters and urinary issues. It's about health optimization.
That's so great. Congratulations. You're doing great things for people.
Thank you.
It's so much more rewarding, isn't it?
Oh,
to get some of the testimonials that I get, to hear these texts that guys will send me, it's everything. It's so rewarding to see the transformation that guys are getting, that, I'm not just getting you neutral. I'm not just getting you for your disease. I'm actually optimizing you so you feel great and, extend longevity.
Yeah. That is. And that's how we feel. I mean, we get, we're virtual too. And I think now these days it's like it's like better, it's easier, it's better. There's no waiting. We're never late. Like we're always on time and people get the same results,
That's
So,
right.
and it is so much more rewarding, what we do with functional medicine than, in my opinion, doing conventional medicine. So, well, thank you so much for coming on. This has been awesome. We've been really wanting to have, someone, I'm very picky about who I ask to come on. And I wanted someone to speak specifically to the men, and I'm so happy that you came on because you did such a great job. And you really, it sounds like your program is so thorough and well-rounded. So anyone would be blessed to work with you.
Oh, I appreciate the opportunity to talk with you today. This has been fun.
Yes. Have a great rest of your day.
And hold on, I got to ask about the reviews, y'all.
Oh.
We need reviews. The reason we need reviews is to keep this podcast going. So the more reviews we have, the longer this goes on. And we want you to point out Tracy's episode because that will lead people to exactly what episodes work best for them. So mention Dr. Tracy Gapin in your review. And and we give out prizes too for review. But thank you so much for coming on, and thank you everybody for listening.
Yes. Have a great rest of the day.
You too.
Bye.
All right.
Awesome.